Good evening and welcome to Seven Kinds of Mischief. I am your host, Mysterious Mex- Mexican Ironman, who is on a quest to learn, to discover, to guide, and to welcome my awesome brother and co-host, Mr. Adega Outlaw.
Hey, boss.
Did I sound kind
You
of
sure you can handle
mysterious?
this? You can be all right.
Well, it's funny that you asked me if I can handle this because
I didn't pick an easy one for you this week.
no. Well, but I kind of asked for it.
Yeah.
Because I did reach out to you a couple of times, and then I called you, and I kind of asked for it. I kind of said, "Let me have it. Let's do this. Let's go there." Because let me welcome everybody in the chat here before we jump in. I'm already starting to jump into the topic. Welcome. Do it. I am your host, Mysterious Mexican Ironman. Good news today, guy. I didn't wear my mysterious. I wore my. I didn't. I wore my mysterious Darth Poopy black thong for tonight's journey, so I'm ready for, action. In case we find action.
Darth Poopy and thong seems appropriate. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, let me say hi to everybody. Welcome, Snort Poopus Cuber. Who says how to all the critters out there. Hello, Leia. Welcome. Glad to have you here. I want to thank Mark the Infinitely Tired for showing up. Hello, Malada, Purple Valkyrie. How are you? Chris Persia. Whoa, both the Bash Brothers are here. So awesome that both the Bash Brothers are here. I think this should be interesting.
They always are.
I may need the wrenches and mods to provide emotional support for Mexican Ironman tonight. Hey, y'all. Is that how she says it? Outlaw? Is that how she says it? Hey, y'all.
You're getting better, but still a ways to go.
Hello, all, says Project Storytime. Hail to you, Josh. Great to see you here. As always. Oh, look, Mexican Ironman is in the chat. Hi, Mexican Ironman. Oh, wait, that's myself. Hello, myself. Hello, Pat S., who's shouting out Project Storytime. Awesome. Want to say hello, what up? Shout out to my good friend, Dean Krantz. Yo, what's up, Dean? Hope you're firing up a cigar right now and enjoying the evening. It's certainly going to be a journey for us all. How to my good buddy, the Catman, Dee Myers. Says, Dee. Hello across the pond to Louise Sparrow. Hello, Louise. Louise is so sweet. She's so awesome. Let's
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, who else we got here with us? Let's see.
Punk Waddle.
So funny and hilarious. He cracks me up. Oh my goodness. VIP royalty is in the house. Snow Dub Music and Entertainment says hashtag Team Pup. Doggone it. Doggone you, Snow Dub Music and Entertainment. You stop that right now. This is my show with Adega. This is our first show together. You stop that right now, Snow Dub. Stop that freaking petite puff. DJ Ronnie G, how are you? Good to see you here. And let's see. I think did I hit everybody? This thing moves so fast. Oh, and there's Punk.
Yeah, there'll be a few that punk in and pop out here and there. You put on Punk Waddle and I went punk instead of pop. Oh, well.
Punk pop. So let's give everybody a little bit of background. So as we know, Loki's out, and I'd never done
venturing off horizons.
And while I've never done a show with you, I have seen all of these shows that you've done with Loki, which have been absolutely fascinating. I know that there's a lot of topics that are interesting or challenging to get into. I also know that I can just tell you have much more breadth and depth to a variety of topics. And so when Loki told me that I could do a show with you, I hit you up. And I said, oh, wow, cool. Let's go somewhere. Let's do something. And right before we get into that, we want to say, Mark the Infinitely Tired, thank you. 2 words for Adega, air horn. What does that mean?
He's thinking of the sky horn to nuke the taco truck.
Oh,
I don't think that's on there anymore.
You mean for the one from Orbit? Well, you know what? I would love to do that for you, Mark, but instead, despite popular belief this morning for the people at home, this is actually a Halloween picture of Mark the Infinitely Tired when he dressed up and he was looking for varmints and critters in the backwoods of Alabama. artwork is so cute.
I like the native paint.
Yeah, he's so cute. His native war paint. So I reached out to you, and you gave me some homework, and let's take everybody on the same journey here, people. What we're going to talk about? We're going to
Well,
talk
that's the
about.
thing. I have been softballing it for the past month or so. Well, I did get into Charlie a little bit, but I everyone knows there are things out there that are quite dark and quite horrible, and there are things that we can and cannot share on certain edited YouTube channels, or I guess all the way around YouTube. They don't want you to share all the fun, real spooky and truths out there because someone might get offended at something being exposed. So I, on and off, you followed this on and off. I will lighten the load. Get on something like last week. It was pretty mellow. Um, this week isn't the case, and I was going to ask you too because it's just Loki and I never ask for feedback on our show, and I want as a critic, not as a friend. How do you think it's going, and what would the audience want? And if you guys have something out there that are listening in chat, uh,
Oh,
not
I let's.
necessarily specific ideas, but if you like the direction that we go, if there's anything that, whatever, just a little bit of feedback, because I've never asked for it.
Well, I can give you some feedback right now. I mean, if you like. I mean, I think I've seen every single show. I have to catch them on replay because because we broadcast at the same time here on this channel as I do on Midnight's Edge. But I always catch the replays. I would say a couple things. One is that um, I would love it if there were some videos that maybe went a little, or some of the videos maybe had some websites for additional reading or instruction type of thing. Um, because sometimes when the show ends, I feel like I want to go deeper or broader on some of the topics that you guys have covered.
Right.
I also think maybe, and I can talk to Loki about this, but maybe if we take some of the shows on the playlist and maybe retitle them to what the topic was. And I know that's going to be kind of challenging, but then again, here at here at this channel, it's we don't care about the algorithm as much as we care about the quality of the content and the integrity. So I think.
I put in private chat a link for this is some of the ancient stuff, and these are
Okay.
entire books. It's like your own personal library of all this stuff. If you wanted to share that with people, they can read some of the stuff that I've actually shared when it comes to the immortals, uh, the things of the ancient masonry, those type of things. Um, that sacred text will give you categories of different things to read. There is a lot there. So, yeah,
Yeah,
if you post that for them.
I just put that in the Internet Sacred Text archive. I just put that up as I just shared it with everybody. I'm going to show people what the website looks like real quick. Here, let me go to that tab. Ba-ba-ba. Here we go. Okay, let me see here if everybody can see that. Here, let me take us down to the bottom.
It does get into a lot of fun stuff. You could spend hours and hours and days upon that because some of these things, and you've heard me read from some of this stuff.
Yep.
There's a lot of, well, you could say there's everything from Celtic to, the Freemasonry, evil. It's all there. At least the old stuff. It doesn't have the new stuff.
Right. But the Vedas and
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
like how
yeah.
this is organized by world religions, that type of thing. That's excellent. Okay, yeah, I
Yep.
dropped in the chat. Check it out, everybody. Um, yeah, and so I would just say that maybe you guys have covered so much content. It's almost like this show. I know it doesn't get a lot of views on YouTube because the algorithm suppresses the content with its voice recognition. I'm sure it does. It has to. Um, but I do think that what you and Loki have done on the show is you're the closest thing I've found because of your knowledge. You're like a one man coast to coast in a lot of ways. Well, no, you are.
Wow.
Except you also what you bring in is you bring in the historical perspective, particularly of Hollywood in the entertainment industry, and how that industry and how media has now come to how that industry has blossomed through media because that's what we have now, right? We have electronic media that we didn't have before. Before electronic media, we had print media. Before that, we had ancient texts and customs and all that. And
Right.
and what you've been able to do is, I think, show us how some of these ancient practices, beliefs, however insidious so many of them are, now seem to be they seem to be accelerating. See, we didn't have the
Yeah,
Hollywood
they've never
industry.
really gone away, but like I read, it was a few weeks ago, one of the tenets when they started up again with the Illuminatus, and that was the original name. It's got various different names now, but they are insidiously slow because they just don't care. As long as
Hmm.
they get what they want at the time, they leave it for future generations of deviants who want to continue the destruction. And now we're getting close to a culmination of their it's pretty easy to see now, especially when they have statues of Baphomet at courthouses and Capitol buildings. The Vatican, I don't know why I was behind on this when we showed this a couple of weeks ago. I think maybe it was last week. I can't remember. Of the Moloch statue at the Colosseum that was set up by actually the Pope. And it's out in the open. And I'm not saying the Catholic Church is bad, don't get me wrong, but there are elements in every single religion that are bad.
Well, there's elements in every
Sometimes they're
single
higher.
part of stratus. There's in every single culture, society, and stratosphere levels of stratus within each
Yep.
society.
And they're very good at hiding. And it's not a conspiracy because it's very obvious. And there's a meme going out nowadays where it says, I can't remember exactly how it goes. Fault me for my poor memory, but it was basically saying they were looking for a new conspiracy because all the ones that they believed in before have come true.
Right. Well, I wouldn't call them. See, here's where my thinking has been on this topic with conspiracies and this and that. See, I don't. I hate the word conspiracy theory or conspiracy this, conspiracy that. I
That's a
mean,
CIA term. If
yeah,
you wanted to go back, it's trying to discredit the people who bring it up. Oh, it's nonsense.
right, exactly. And even more so, though, I think people latch onto it because it's easy. It's an easy word to describe ignorance. Because to build on what you were saying, these things are out in the open. But if we don't have an understanding of what they are, what they mean, and how they're connected to ancient knowledge and ancient
Right.
history, then to us it is a conspiracy because we live in ignorance. Anything, I really feel that in the modern era, people use the term conspiracy to define anything that they're ignorant to. I'll give you an example. I'm following a lot of Sufi traditions in the last year. Um, it's new to me. It's new for me. Something that was really basic and elemental, which won't be for you because you know so much. But when people talk of genies, which relates to
Hmm.
in the Muslim tradition the jinn,
Hmm.
which are creatures that are just something like I dream of genie. You know what I mean? You
Certainly
really
not that.
you really don't want to dream about a whole lot of genies because the genies are jinn. And of the jinn, there are some that are benevolent, there are some that are neutral, but the vast majority are negative forces.
Right.
With
They were
use of
something to be feared pre Islam.
yes,
Before that came in, it was one of those stories that was shared with people and children that were meant to spook more than to inspire. There weren't these three magic, it was like a monkey's paw thing with them. You get something from them, but you end up much worse in the long run. Or usually they just play pranks on you, kind of like um, picking on a knocker. If you don't feed them, they come after you.
and one of the great things about your shows is that it has matched my own spiritual quest and journey because I'm a Catholic, born and been a practicing Catholic for the vast majority of my life. There was a brief time period where I became atheist because I was mad at the world and mad at how things were going in my life. Then I went born again Christian. Then I went back to being Catholic. But much more recently, in this last year, I've supplemented that foundation with following Sufi teachings, which are based in Islam, but aren't any of the traditional Islamic religions. It's really more of a understanding of how the world works, very metaphysical. So when I
Mhm.
watch your shows that you do with Loki, what fascinates me is that so much of the knowledge that you're sharing and imparting is completely in line with Sufi teachings that I'm following from Sheikh Nurjan, who is the sheikh that I follow in the Sufi world. where he'll talk about things like even practical things. Like he'll talk about how the Matrix is a Sufi movie, for example, Matrix One. How if you just look around the world, you see objective truths, you see objective evil, you see sinister people, you see sinister behavior. But because so much of it is couched within the world, the fabric of entertainment, and when the entertainment hits our emotional buttons, we don't have that understanding because it's hard for people to intellectually look beyond the emotional response, look beyond that, the highs and the lows, and that sort of endorphin experience to understand what's really happening. And what your
We've been
shows
trained not to look.
exactly.
You got, for the past 300 years, when they institutionalized schools, from the early universities all the way down, you learn what the professor puts in front of you. Sit down, be a good child. Wrote this to memory instead of teaching you how to explore. Because when the blinders are put on, you don't see what's going on. And you get into your life where you have to pay the bills, you have to feed the family, and this doesn't change what century you're in. There is always the need to provide for yourself, and that becomes the priority. When you're hungry, you want to eat. That is a priority. And as long
Yes,
as you're hungry, trying to eat, you don't look, you don't smell the roses, and you don't see the crap on the other side of the fence because you've been trained and you've been corralled not to see the big picture. The idea
exactly.
is when we go for our entertainment, when we go for our downtime, some of that downtime needs to be a time when you stretch your mind beyond what you're used to,
Hmm.
when you study things or look at things or read about things or listen to things that you never would have explored in a million years, but you do it because it helps your mind. Like recently, for me, it's been foreign music. I'm listening to a lot of Russian, some Spanish. It sounds almost like 80s pop, but they have different singers in it. It just influences from around the world, and you're corralled into your language, into your country. When we are humans, and it should be bigger than that. But while you're corralled, the people who did the corralling are doing horrible things.
Exactly. And creating undue suffering and stress. Real quick, I just want to thank Echo Base Network for 9.99 super chat. Just got out of Spider-Man. Spoiler alert! Oh, everybody, look out! Spoiler alert! Darth Vader is Luke's father. Oh wait, wrong movie. That's a good one. That's a good one. And since he said Darth Vader, little sci-fi, little sci-fi action for the kiddies, everyone. Thank you, Echo Base Network. I think one of the things that's always infuriated me is that as I've learned a lot, is the stress that's put on people. This argument about minimum wage. You have corporations making more money than ever. You have them stockpiling cash, stockpiling Bitcoin, stockpiling, even in the case of some people like Peter Thiel, stockpiling actual gold in vaults. Meanwhile, the worker bees struggle. The worker bees struggle to interact. The worker bees struggle to make their payments, and they're so busy working
Mhm.
that they're completely subjugated. People think they're free, but they're not.
It's an artificial scarcity.
It's an artificial scarcity.
Mhm. Whether it's the scarcity of thought, whether it's the scarcity of resources, and whether all of it. It's scarcity of finances. It's by design to keep you in your place.
And now even scarcity of education, because I'm not sure if you knew this or not, Adega, but I was looking at some California educational curriculum changes that are happening right now. Did you know that that math is racist?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
you knew
I
that
know
already.
that they in Oregon they've even passed some laws that prevent people from that no longer prevent people from graduating that don't know how to read and write from high school.
Right. And did you know, Adega,
And
that 2 plus 3 equals 4?
yeah,
Do you know why? Because it's my truth.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then almost every single major university is being subsidized by the government, and not one of them needs it.
Nope. Nope. It's absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. Cycled off 9 for $5. How did I do that? Did I do that okay?
Not bad.
I'll do one more time. Hold on. Cycled off 9 for $5.
That was
If
worse.
no, okay, well, all right.
Psychodorf 9. That was
Oh,
practically
good
bad.
job. It's amazing how close mariachi and German Oompa are. Wait, what? What does that even mean? Thank you very much, Cycledorf 9. So wonderful to have you with us tonight. Thank you. Well, okay. Oh my God, we've already been going for 25 minutes. All right, let's get into the topic. All right.
All
So
right.
give everybody, because you're going to do this better than I can, give everybody at least 2 to 5 minutes of what you had me jump into and what's the background. Setting for people, everybody, by the way, we have to go back to the 50s. Okay. Adega, go.
Well, we're going to go a little bit later than the 50s. But if you want to go back to the 50s, you could start with even at the beginning, I think it was called the OSI, which later, one of you is going to correct me, and I don't mind it when you correct me, because I think it was the OSI that turned into the CIA.
That is correct. I studied intelligence as part of my emphasis in political science. OSI turned into CIA. That is correct.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Well, basically, because those of you who know that the shows that I've been putting on, I'm dancing around saying everything outright. And pointing fingers at institutions or what have you. But you guys know about, I've talked about, and if you haven't heard it, you can go back and listen to the MK Ultra stuff that we did. They have basically been working for a long time on how to do mind control, how to do group control, and even how to do nation control. And they've gotten pretty good at it. I haven't brought this one up, and one of these days I will, was the Jim Jones and his group. And something that you guys may not have known, and I forgot the gentleman's name, but there was a CIA operative that was there even when they set up the society. They had a full store of millions, well, not millions, but thousands upon thousands of doses. They could have distributed it to the local city where the Jim Jones place was, and not his, but the city that was thousands that could have supplied the people with 2 years worth of these illicit CIA only mind altering drugs. And they were there with the Jim Jones people, and the majority of them were killed. They didn't drink the Kool-Aid. You don't hear that, but the evidence is all out. All that is true, and it's verifiable. And the CIA operative walked out. Everything that Jim Jones did was CIA basic tactics. Now, move on, we can also cover the same type of drugs. Similar situation was with Charles Manson. I can get into that later. But one thing that Charles Manson did, and I hinted at it, was ritual sacrifice. He taught his people how to sacrifice animals. They killed a lot of dogs. On their compound, there was a lot of dead animals that had been sacrificed. And he taught them how to do humans. And I talked about, oh gosh, now I can't even remember her name. You guys will correct me, and I appreciate that. Just forgive me for my memory being so bad because of different things that I have to deal with. Kate, I think her name was Kate. Either way, she was killed. She was a famous actress, and she wanted out, and so she was sacrificed ritually in a satanic ritual. And you can even hear Charles Manson. He says you always do it witchy. Everything you do it with a witch taint. But these groups all had a foundation in one specific group, which is splintered off. It doesn't mean it's the only one that existed, because it certainly was not, but it was one that we know about. In England, there was a group that set themselves up. The leader was a guy named Robert de Grayston, and he married someone whose name was Mary Ann. Mary Ann basically was an abused child from the very beginning. She grew up even child prostitution, and she found Scientology. So did Robert. That's where they met. He liked her even though she was an overbearing beast of a person. And they stuck with Scientology and they loved them. They loved her because she was very good at doing their little clear device. They had these machines where they'd check people to make sure they're not lying and go over and over and over again to try and correct people's personalities. Some of you who know Scientology know the process. Well, they stole the machine and they left Scientology and they set up what was called the Process Church. And in England, they thought for first, they were all wearing these black robes. They had a patch of Baphomet on them, and they're going around trying to do good, enticing people. At least that's what you had on the front. Giving people coffee at their coffee shops, making sure people had blankets that didn't have blankets.
And this was established in in the 60s.
68, I believe.
Yep.
Actually, it was earlier than that, because I know they got into the hippie scene just a little bit late. So it was earlier than that. But the people in England, they caught on to them because they had pamphlets going around and they never caught them, but they were convinced. Some of these pamphlets were like Robert, he was saying that their belief was Christ, Satan, Lucifer, they were all one big party. And you hear the teachings of most Christianity and a lot of good religions with thou shalt not kill. Their saying was thou shalt kill. They gave out pamphlets about how to be deviant, about sacrifices, about digging up corpses and practicing necrophilia and how much of a joy it was. The people in Britain saw this and said, nah, we ain't giving you credence. So they had to leave because they were completely ostracized. They bounced around several different places. They were in California. They ended up in, I think it was the Bahamas for a little while, broke. But the general idea was their preachings were very, very dark. They always had that up front, we're here to help. But behind the scenes, they were doing some terrible things. There is strong evidence, because one of the people that was part of them, his name was Roy Radin, and he had influence into snuff films. If you guys don't know what snuff films is, basically you take a person, do absolutely horrible, horrible things to them, and then while you're filming the entire thing, you end them. And then those films get shared and sold. There was, and don't think it was only just them, because these things have happened in a lot of circles. And some of you guys may have known about Boys Town. This was a Republican thing, so don't think this is always a left thing or a center thing. This was a right thing, where one of the heads, and he was an influential politician, never went to prison because of money, politics, and those who were connected. But snuff films were made of him doing horrible things to boys and blowing them away. A politician on the Republican side in the 70s. These guys, along with Manson and a few others, this is what they did. This is how they made money. They sold their kids for doing bad things for P to the E to the O's. And then they sold these films and people disappeared. And at one point, there was a series of deaths, violent murders that happened, and it terrified people. And there was messages that were left, and they figured out this guy calls himself Son of Sam.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of you guys would probably remember that name, Son of Sam. They finally caught him. When it all ended, the evidence was very strong, but the prosecution needed a patsy, so they stuck with him. They didn't want to get some of the police who were there, who even knew about the snuff films, and some of them actually had purchased. I can't name names, but that's the strong evidence. But he said he was not alone, and these things were done on high satanic Sabbaths. These were ritual sacrifices, not someone who was out going nuts on his own. This was part of Process Church.
Mm-hmm.
The situation got very, very bad for them. People started to catch on. People don't like Satanism. And so eventually there was infighting and they broke off. And there's a couple of splinter groups that I know of. One of the big ones. And as always, like most of these things where I shouldn't say as always, but oftentimes you'll find something that looks like it's a really good, wholesome type of thing, like certain child daycare centers or, certain charity funds or what have you. There is this one organization that was set up and now it's in Utah. The same people that were doing these things is set up called Best Friends Animal Society. They're supposed to, there it is, save them all. These little green symbol looks like a dog face with a little smiley there, and it says, it's upper right, Best Friends Animal Society. And this is where people donate unwanted animals, rescue them. And even some big, there's been a lot of Hollywood types that go in and take a picture with their rescued animal that they got from there. But what better front you have to continue to do your crazy sacrifices and be able to dump the bones without anybody ever knowing or suspecting. Now that last part, I don't have receipts on that. It's high suspicions, knowing the people that are part of this group.
But let me tell you what we do have receipts on people and what is on page one of this website from Wiki and in paragraph one. Best Friends Animal Society founded and is present from 1993. It's an American not for profit. BFAS does outreach nationwide with shelters, rescue group, blah, 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 blah. Check this out. It has a 2-star, quote, needs improvement rating from Charity Navigator. 2-star needs
That's pretty
improvement.
bad.
Needs improvement means there's not a lot of disclosure, there aren't any audits, and there's not a lot of forthcoming information. Versus some charities will have much higher rating, 4 stars, the whole 9 yards. Needs
Right.
improvement, and something that I think is fascinating. Adeg, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want you to keep going in a
No, you're
second.
great. That's
I just
fine.
wanted to chime in. Is that I don't talk about it a lot, but in the world of tax accounting, where I got my bones, besides Exxon, was in the nonprofit world of accounting. I was CFO for a large national nonprofit, the same one that Michelle Obama. Did you know Michelle Obama worked for me for 4 years? Did I ever tell you that?
I had no idea.
Yeah, we'll do another show about that. She worked for me for 4 years. I signed her checks. She drew us a direct report. She ran the Chicago office and worked for me. We'll talk about that another time on another show. But fascinatingly enough, I represent business owners. The federal government stopped auditing nonprofits. Like the entire division has been stripped down to the smallest number of staff. And it's fascinating to me because you have these tax shelters where people are able to collect money, not pay any taxes, and literally the purpose, whether it's supposed to be charitable or not, is never analyzed or audited or validated or verified in any way,
Hmm.
shape, or form. It's very difficult to get not for profit status. If you know what you're doing, you can get it done for a client. I don't do this work anymore because it's exhausting, it doesn't pay well. But having come from this universe, once you get that nonprofit status, you have it for life. Unless you literally don't file your taxes for 5 or 7 years, because nonprofits have to file tax returns. But the
Right.
tax return itself is simultaneously the hardest to audit. It's the most complicated, the most confusing, and it is like it's impossible to audit a nonprofit. You could bury anything in any way, shape, or form in a 501c3 tax return. It's called in that form 990. It is the form and the structure of it. It is basically you can bury and hide anything anywhere you want, and there's no requirement that say for every dollar you take, whether 20% or 30 or 40, 50% is overhead or not and whatnot. I just wanted to highlight to the people though, because when you said we don't have receipts, well, they there is one receipt that they've got to choose. The rating they do have is 2 stars. The only way you get to 1 star is if you're insolvent. basically.
So that's as bad as you can get without going out of business.
It's as bad as you can get without basically teetering, without either being in a scandal or teetering on the verge of being out of business as a not-for-profit. Anyway, continue on, good sir. So they morphed into best
No,
friends.
no, no. You're good. That's pretty much the thing, though. Is it looks like you have to do your homework. Like I won't contribute to almost every charity. There are very few, and you really have to pay attention to what's going on. Sometimes it's just that 90% goes to the pocket of the administration, and they'll like these. They used to do this. You remember these back in the 90s, in late 80s. The Children's Fund. These poor people in Haiti or in Africa, or whatever. The little kids. They show the starving little kids and say just $2 a month, and they've discovered on all of those. I don't know of one that was honest.
Mm-hmm.
They paid for one child while thousands of people were contributing, thinking that thousands of kids are being helped. Or they would take maybe just a handful and they got rich off of this stuff. Uh, Even recently, you guys have probably heard about the Salvation Army. Most of you, some of you probably don't realize it's a religion. And they are standing by their uh, just some ideas that uh, are supporting some of the woke ideology. Uh, I used to, think admirable to the most for the most part. I wouldn't contribute too much, but every once in a while I give a buck and one of the barrel. But I won't do that anymore. I have to be very cautious because
Hey, Dega, it's so funny that you say that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but last weekend, I had to go to Bass Pro Shops. They had some guns on sale, and I ordered a couple, and the it's the first time since I was a little kid that I didn't want to donate because of stuff I had found out recently, and I'm like, wow,
mm,
dress dress them up like Santa, ring a bell, give me your money, and then who knows where it goes to.
right, right. Mark says do a deep dive in the Church of the Subgenus. Oh, we'll see. Maybe you have
Okay,
to remind
maybe.
me. You have to remind me.
Yeah,
Um,
send us a
you
Twitter,
guys
Mark.
could, yeah, you guys could see how my memory works. Names, I'm just gonna forget. Tomorrow I'll go. Mark wanted me to look at something, some church or something. I won't remember the name. I've always been horrible with names. That was the cool thing about being a doctor is I had the patient file in front of me. I remember the face. I remember what they had. I remember all their conditions, the best way to take care of them, so they were feeling their best and at their happiest. But unless it was really ingrained in my head, I would forget names. It's always been a weakness of mine. Probably my biggest weakness is forgetting names.
Well, good news is I'm Mexican. Ironman. Anyway, let's get back to Best Friends Animal Society. So they morphed into this.
Yeah. And that's pretty much where it stayed. You're going to see every once in a while they'll have a flyer. You can even look them up where they have they advertise with some of the celebrities that have. Let me see if I could find some real quick. Celebrities that oh geez that have taken pictures with these guys
Go ahead and
to
throw it in the
promote
private
them.
chat so we can show the people.
Let me let's see if I can get a link for this here.
Pat S says he gives to his college library, Gary S.'s Vets Charity, and Toys for Tots. All are in the 90% rating. Purple Valkyrie says, I won't ever give money to the Salvation Army again.
Let me see if I can get a better link. That was a bad link.
Okay. Snorter Porpoise Cuber says, I need to found a nonprofit to feed starving polar bears and find them mates. Okay. I think one of my favorite comments is from DJ Ronnie. I want to start a nonprofit where we plant trees to quote eat carbon or some other BS. 90% for administrative costs, 10% for the tree planting.
Actually, I think I'm just going to have to copy the image and send it to Twitter
No, I
because I
got it.
just
I got it
looked.
right here.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, this is Danny Trejo, my
Yep.
boy. I bet he does.
And he probably, whether or not he knows, I don't know.
I
But
guarantee you he does. There's a high likelihood I'm gonna have dinner with him in the next 3 or 4 weeks. Did you know that?
ah, no, I didn't.
So Paulie Latino Slant organized an interview for Midnight Edge with Danny Trejo, and I was fortunate enough to be a producer for it. And backstage, we were talking. So I bought both of his books, and I'm going to his restaurant when I go to Southern California, and I'm going to have him sign my books. But here's the great Danny Trejo,
Hmm.
and I know this guy has no clue what he's associated with.
I hope not.
I hope not too.
Because there's others that I mean, in my search for, I hate it when I do that when I say I mean. Uh, in some of the research that I was doing on this, I ran into, well, you can guess at some of them, but there was a quote, and I think Loki and I talked about this a while ago.
Hmm.
But one of the Scorpion members was saying, yeah, he was there when they were doing some of the recordings of the snuff films. They actually watched people be tortured and killed
Jiminy
for money.
crickets! Seriously?
Hmm.
So, what is the infatuation or the relationship with Hollywood vis-a-vis? Well, we won't do the PEDO thing, but at least with the animals and how is that all connected and this and that? Because
Well,
to me,
it
what I find
actually,
it's before you answer that, what I've always found insidious is that to me, one of the ways I judge whether a person's a good person or not is how they treat other people and how they treat animals. Um, in my opinion,
it's slow initiation. They take you. This happens with a lot of these different groups. It's all the same. Uh, for mind control or emotional or what have you, you are given things that you like, and then you slowly associate things with you like with things that are detestable
hmm
until you are hooked. Usually they start off with, well, here's a sexual encounter. Then it goes on to, here's a group encounter. And then here it is. Oh, wait, didn't we tell you that one was a little too young? And then it goes on to, hey, come with us. We're going to have a big party. And then some animals are gone. And then they say, hey, you've made it this far. You're either all the way out or you come to the next one. And that's when the big stuff hits. And the reason being is because you become controlled. And eventually, if you're done young enough and you grow up in it, you can become a controller. That's one of the things I was going to talk about with Tom Hanks, but some of the resources that I had have been scrubbed. Um, so I'll keep looking. But the thing about the P to the E to the D to the O with Hollywood, you can go back to some of the old black and white films. And I'm still trying to find my source so I can tell you where to look, not show you what to look. But some of these old films are extremely suggestive. Having 3 or 4 year olds, boys and girls, dancing and doing things which they think they're working with farm animals. But use your imagination, and yeah. And then if you really want to have your eyes opened, it seems innocent enough. But if you know the details behind it, and I know there's a few of you who do, you can go to um, Shirley Temple, watch the video of, I think it's the Good Ship Lollipop,
Hmm.
and watch how she is paraded and what she does for that scene. This was done in the 50s, even though it's color, but you can use your imagination only a very little bit because it will become quite obvious to you when you look at it with open eyes and see this is what they are telling you, this is what they have groomed her for, and this is what they are about.
Now you're talking about Shirley Temple movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I always found that when I was a kid watching it, I always found it kind of creepy, weird.
Well, like I said, Good Ship Lollipop, go watch the video. She's on a plane with a whole bunch of guys in suits.
Hmm
And just it's in plain sight. They try and make it look innocent at the time, and you don't hear about it now. At the time, because my parents are older, and I get this stuff. There were so many people pissed off at this because they knew what it was, and
Really?
it got shut down. Oh yeah, they knew exactly what it was. But she's an entertainer. Look how cute she is. She's got dimples. This is something it's been insidiously growing in that community for a very, very long time,
Low
and it
spec Linux
needs
lap.
to die.
It
Not only
does.
because they have bad movies, but because they're bad. Not all of them, but there's bad people there.
Low spec Linux laptop observes Shirley Temple's Good Ship Lollipop is pretty disturbing. Then check metal version. Um,
I don't know if I want to.
yeah, I don't know if I want to. Stoner Poopus Cuber says, just take a look at the mansion some of these charity administrators live in, and imagine where your money's going. That's absolutely true. And more recently, in the last say 8 to 10 years, I've been completely flabbergasted about how some of these not-for-profit people, whether they're religious or supposedly charitable, whether it's a religious, because when you get a nonprofit certificate, when you get that letter in the mail from the IRS, there's different kinds. You can have not-for-profit um, associations for professionals, not-for-profit charitable purposes, not-for-profit religious purposes, not-for-profit, and the list keeps going. There's 50c3s, 50c5s, 50c7s, and none of them, all of them collectively aren't audited. Um, Classic Comics makes a comment. It says, I read an article about
Yep.
Shirley Temple back when the Me Too stuff first kicked up. The article mentioned an anecdote from her biography when she was around 12 or 13. She went to the studio MGM. Yep, that's true.
And classic, I have shown up on your channel more often than you would realize. You probably have never seen me there, but I'm there frequently. I like going in and putting a like and watching what everybody does, whether they know I'm there or not.
Punkwall observes there's a few of these organizations that have been shown to keep most of the money and people yet still donate.
It's an emotional thing. It's not a logical thing. That's one of the things about mind control is if you can control the emotions. It's like with the food. If you're hungry, you want to eat. You want that emotional rush, that's where you go. It's easier to follow emotion than it is logic.
What is it that uh what is it that these people what is inside the human soul, do you think, that they're able to speak to that then turns it into the cult? Like what is that emotional need or that emotional deficiency or that logical, what is it, what is it that enables that mind control to exist from where you sit? I mean, I probably know the answer, but I want to hear, but I'd love to hear your answer.
There's several different ways to get in. It was mentioned in chat earlier that if someone is feeling left out or unfulfilled or needy to a certain degree, they start searching. It was like the Scientology thing, the whole thing about Robert and Mary. When they left the Scientology, they got in because it fulfilled a need for her. There was order where her whole childhood was abuse and disarray.
Hmm.
For him, it was kind of a similar type thing, and her, because he had the hots for her right off the jump. Uh, and then it slowly feeds on the ego. There's little bits of gratification. And like any narcotic, you get one hit, you feel that rush, and there are those who want more. The control comes after, well, that's one way. There's the need for a some type of fulfillment. A lot of people are the outcast, the downtrodden, the sad, the destitute, those who don't have any hope, and it's something to latch onto. There are others that use it as a way, like Robert and Mary, for the church, the process church, use it as a way for self gratification and control of others. And oftentimes they get very, very wealthy, just like you talked about. These people were poor some of the time, but a lot of time they had a lot of money. They were exploiting their constituents, humiliating them, and then bringing them back up after the humiliation, making them think it was worth it. But in the long run, each step along the way, they were that much worse off. So power, fulfillment, all the things that everybody wants, it's misguided and slowly twisted and used through the emotional means instead of the logical means.
What do you think um, people need to do? Oh, real quickly, let me grab this real quick. Punk Waddle for $5. It's a fool who looks for logic in the chambers of the human heart. It's a fool who looks for logic in the chambers of the human heart. That's
Right,
a good one.
right. No, he's actually absolutely right. You think, and I tell this to people, we have hit our heads against the wall so many times talking or trying to communicate with people who go for the woke, social justice, those type of things,
Hmm.
and wonder why we are so frustrated because of this division. Why don't they see? It's because we are trying to teach them or trying to instruct them or trying to enlighten them using facts, figures, anecdotes, things that don't relate to them anymore. It
So what
has to
do
be through the human heart, just like he said, because you're not going to find logic in them. You're going to find emotion in them. You have to communicate through emotions. That is the foundation. When the heart changes for people in that situation, then the mind opens.
what do you think are the things that we can do? Oh my God, we're already almost at an hour. What are the things that you think we can do in order to find light, find truth, find understanding, and resist the emotional ups and downs that keep us busy from being the best versions of ourselves?
Well,
I know
that's
it's
part of it. You have to have the ups and downs to be the best version of yourself. It's like exercising any muscle. If you don't exercise it, it doesn't get stronger. If you are afraid to have hardship, if you're afraid to fail, you're not going to succeed, not to your fullest extent. The trouble is, some people, and I know we're all guilty of this to one extent or another, will find the wrong source to gain that strength.
hmm
Where in these cults, this is where they think they're finding it. Uh, Open mind, clear head, and a absolute fairness to everyone. Because all of these different societies are all self-indulgent. You look at Hollywood; it's a self-indulgent group that push this stuff. Disney, these colleges, where the greatest fulfillment, and this is a life lesson for everybody, and it's true. I've found with people that have had depression and various different things, every single time this works. Two key things to pull anyone out of a depression. First is you get out and walk a
Yeah.
lot. The second thing is you serve other people honestly without need for reward. You put those two things together, you'll pull anybody out of depression unless they've had some serious brain damage.
It's fascinating that you say that, Adega, because when I had my accident a little more than 2 weeks, or what now, it's now 3 weeks and a year ago, I wasn't able to walk, wasn't able to go outside. And because I was on the drugs they prescribed to me, we talked about this off air earlier. I wasn't able to do it. I think Loki's talked about it on the show. What made me the most upset is I wasn't able to help the YouTube channels that I loved,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't able to. So I wasn't able to be of service, and I wasn't able to walk, and I wasn't able to see the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And it was absolutely it just destroyed me, and that's why I went into that deep depression. That's why I got addicted to drugs, and when I taking the Percocet and the oxycodone, and it was you. And I want to tell everybody here in Valhalla what I told you on the phone when we talked
Nah,
yesterday.
we don't need to talk about me.
Would you just can't take a compliment. I'm about to give a compliment. He sees it coming a mile away, and he's already like running for the hills. But it was your all natural prescription and regimen that I took that gave me light and got my system clean, got me off that stuff, and resulted in a year later. There's a direct correlation to the regimen you gave me almost a year ago that not only got me off those drugs, got me motivated and optimistic again, but it's why I'm now here on Hilton Head Island on a great house, and now I'm back to supporting the great channels and shows like this one and creators like you and everybody else that I support financially and with time and otherwise. So I want to say thank you to you. And
That's all right.
and I was on a downward slope, brother, fast and hard. And so with Adega, the advice he's giving you, it's two simple things: walk and be of unselfish service to others. If you have those two things happening and you're not absorbed into that iPhone, you're not absorbed into that Android, you're not absorbed into that tablet and all of the hate and negativity, and then we like buy into not seeing the sun and not going out, we are all lost, are we not? Because we cannot find light if we are electronically in darkness and physically in darkness, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. I brought this up before a long time ago on Loki's show. I think it was when he did that interview with me over a year, 2 years ago. The world exists in a state of flux. And if there are enough people in it that produce more than consume, it is a better place. Now, what do I mean by produce? Making people happy. You
Yep.
mow the widowers or the cripples or the special needs home. You go mow their lawn without being asked to. You pick up someone's groceries that have fallen to the ground without needing a thanks. You lend a car, you lend a ride, you do extra hours for somebody else at work. All these little things make more than what was there or what was required. Instead of being someone who pulls and consumes and uses and takes away all the time, if the majority of the people we're creating, the world will be better. Your mindset will be better and you will be happier. That's the way we do things. We sit here and we attack and defend on all these different medias and different things that are insulting us. But at the same time, true success only comes when we expand our horizons and create more, creating a community. That's why I like Valhalla so much, is because I look down the list. I could be friends with anybody because I've seen their shows. I've heard them talk. I've seen their chat. They're good people.
Yeah.
And it builds and it inspires other people to do the same. And if you can inspire one person, just one, the world is a better place. That's why I don't care about numbers, because if I get one, I've done my job. If I get two, it's a bonus.
Right. And Psycho Dwarf 9 for $2. When reason and emotion war, bet on emotion. Yes. But I never lose sight of reason. So for the super chats that came in for Psycho Dwarf 9, Punk Waddle, I think I owe one also to a couple of Psycho Dwarf 9. And I'm not sure if I think I got everybody. But let me go ahead and give these guys a quick little skull. And let me see, which one should I give? Oh, I know which one we should give. We're going to do this one because it's apropos.
That really was.
Yeah. And on that note, thank you for joining the great Adega Outlaw
and
me.
The great Mexican Ironman.
Thank you, my brother, for 7 kinds of mischief.
Hero of the common man.
Hero.
I mean that.
Thank you, brother.
I mean that.
I know you do. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us for tonight's show. Make sure you recommend the show to other people so they catch the replay. I'm going to post it up again on Twitter. And thank you for joining us. And this has been our show. Anything you want to plug or promote on our way out the door, my brother?
No, not really. I do things.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.